Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Wealth and Wisdom. Today we are discussing the economic tenets presented by Islam. In the economic sphere, the basic concept in Islam is that absolute ownership of everything belongs to God alone. Man is God's vicegerent on earth. God has subjected to man service whatsoever is in the heavens and whatsoever is in the earth. This has reference to the whole of mankind. Allah is He who has appointed you, mankind, His vicegerents in the earth, and he who fails to recognize this dignity and to act in accordance therewith shall be answerable for his neglect and will not only suffer loss but will also incur the displeasure of his Lord. Legal ownership of the individual, that is to say the right of possession, enjoyment and transfer of property, is recognized and safeguarded in Islam, but all ownership is subject to the moral obligation that in all wealth all sections of society, and even animals, have a right to share. In their wealth they acknowledge the right of those who asked and of those who could not. Part of this obligation is given legal form and is made effective through legal sanctions, but the greater part is sought to be secured by voluntary effort put forth out of a desire to achieve the highest moral and spiritual benefits for all concerned. In fact, this supplementing of legal obligations through voluntary effort runs through every part of the Islamic system. Its operation can be observed in every sphere. The object of the Islamic economic system is to secure the widest and most beneficent distribution of wealth through institutions set up by it and through moral exhortation. Wealth must remain in constant circulation among all sections of the community and should not become the monopoly of the rich. Islam recognizes the diversity of capacities and talents, which is in itself beneficent, and consequently the diversity in earnings and material rewards. It does not approve of a dead-level equality in the distribution of wealth, as that would defeat the very purpose of the diversity, and would amount to denying the favor of Allah. It is obvious that if the incentive of proportionate reward for labor, effort, skill and talent were to be removed, not only would initiative and enterprise be adversely affected, but intellectual progress would also be arrested. That is why the theoretical doctrine of equal reward irrespective of the diversity of skill, capacities and talents that have gone into the production of wealth has never been maintained for long, even where it has been proclaimed as state policy, and has had to be modified through recourse to various devices designed to secure diversity in reward. On the other hand, Islam does not leave the principle of competition and of proportionate rewards to work itself out mechanically. That too would lead to hardship and injustice, and would work counter to the moral and spiritual development of individuals and of society as a whole. Trade, commercial partnerships, cooperatives, joint stock companies are all legitimate activities and operations. Islam does, however, lay down regulations with regard to commercial activities, designed to secure that they be carried on honestly and beneficently. All contracts, whether involving large amounts or small, must be reduced to writing, setting out all the terms thereof, as this is more likely to keep out doubts and avoid disputes. The writing should set out the terms agreed upon fairly, and as a further precaution it is laid down that the terms of the contract shall be dictated by the person who undertakes the liability. If the person on whose behalf the liability is undertaken is a minor, or of unsound judgment, then his guardian or the person representing his interests should dictate the terms of the contract. Monopolies and the cornering of commodities are prohibited, so also is the holding back of produce from the market in expectation of a rise in prices. All this is opposed to beneficence, and those who indulge in such practices seek to take advantage of the need or distress of their fellow beings. The seller is under obligation to disclose any defect in the article offered for sale. Goods and commodities for sale should go into the open market, and the seller or his agent must be aware of the state of the market before proposals are made for purchase of the goods or commodities in bulk. He should not be taken unawares, lest advantage be taken of his ignorance of the state of the market and the prevailing prices. There are stern injunctions in the Quran with regard to the giving of full weight and measure. Woe unto those who give short measure, those who, when they take by measure from other people, take it full, but when they give by measure to others or weigh out to them, they give them less. Do not such people know that they will be raised again unto a terrible day, the day when mankind will stand before the Lord of the worlds, 82-27. Defective or worthless goods or articles should not be given in exchange for good ones. In short, any kind of transaction which does not comply with the highest standards of honesty and integrity must be eschewed, for God loves not the dishonest. Gambling is prohibited, inasmuch as it promotes dissension and hatred and tends to deter those who indulge in it from the remembrance of God and from prayer, thus occasioning a great deal more harm than any possible benefit that may be derived from it. It also brings sudden and undeserved accession of wealth and encourages extravagance. Indulgence in gambling often brings ruin and misery in its wake. All unlawful means of acquiring property are prohibited, as these in the end destroy a people. Acquisition of property or goods through falsehood falls in the same category. It is equally unlawful to seek to establish a title to property by obtaining judgment through corrupt means like bribery or false evidence. The Prophet said that a party to a dispute which obtains a judgment in its favor, knowing that it is not in the right, only collects a quantity of fire for itself and not something from which it can draw any benefit. On the other hand, goods and property lawfully acquired are a bounty of God which is provided by Him as a means of support. They should be properly looked after and should not be wasted through neglect. A person of defective judgment should not be permitted to squander away his substance. It should be managed and administered for him, and provision should be made for his maintenance out of the income. These were some of the economic rules of Islam. We hope you learned something today. Please tell us in the comment section what other topics you would like discussed. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.